Thank you, GJ. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm so glad to be here and introduce the first speaker for this year's Expo, who in 2014 came up with a very unique conservation project to abolish the illegal trade of the beautiful but endangered gray crown crane in Rwanda. Um, this speaker uh, finally established the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association in 2015. And speaking of the career program, one of our first cohort, a lady who happens to be called Cecil, is also working for the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association, and she is helping restore the habitats of this endangered great crown crane. So please join me in welcoming the founder and executive director of Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association, Dr. Olivier Nsamo.
Thank you. Wow. This morning, when I was practicing my speech, my slides, I realized did the whole thing eyes closed. So I'm so happy that I don't have to close my eyes. As she said, my name is Olivier Nsenyimana. I come from Rwanda. You might probably know my country by the beautiful mountain gorillas. But today, I'm here to tell you about the gray-crowned cranes, these beautiful birds. You see, this image, it's how I remember gray-crowned cranes. At dusk, would see them like dancing, calling. And these are the images that stayed in my head. But 10 years ago, these cranes, I could not find them in the same marshland, in the same habitat they used to be. If you wanted to see them, you'd go to someone's house to see them. There were more gray-crowned cranes in captivity more than they were in the wild. Our organization has been working to change that. Over the last 7 years, we've put an end to the illegal trade. We have removed all captive cranes and reintroduced them back to the wild. Thank you. And these are the same birds I'm going to talk to you about today. Oh, that's another bird. Yeah, I know. You must be thinking, is that Olivia with King Charles III? Oh, yes. In fact, like a few months ago, when he came to Rwanda, he made the time to come and see us. And after his visit, I received a lot of mixed feedback. So many people wanted to touch my hand. Wow, did you greet the king? Can we touch your hands? And so many others were saying, wow, you are a hero. Really, I'm so happy to know you. And then the other ones really brought this question: what do you actually do to be visited by the king? So this question came in my mind, and I started thinking, what do you think we do as conservationists every day? Definitely not meeting the king all the time. But what do you think? Being in the most beautiful places, watching and monitoring, studying those beautiful species that we love? Being with the most beautiful young people, inspiring them to love and protect our beautiful species? Or today we'll be hitting 100 cranes in the wild. Experiencing such unique moments. Yes, this is where we live, and we love it. And most of the time, we love to bring you these stories. And when we tell these stories, we are told we are the heroes. You know, I often get called the hero. But today I want to tell you, there are some of those days, I like to tell my kids, like every day is not Sunday. There are some of those days when it's not working, days when we don't sleep, days when we feel like we are falling down. Days when we feel like everything is falling apart. Days when we are not the heroes. Today, I would like to take you through one of those days, a day in the life of a conservation hero. But actually, who's the hero? It was a Friday, October 1st. It was 10 a.m. I was preparing for the board meeting and I received a call that cranes are falling from the sky like rain. And it confused me. I said, what's happening? And the cranes are dying. And this moment, it's just one of the worst days of my journey to work to save the great crown cranes. I don't usually cry, so you see in my culture they say if you cry you are weak. But I remember I held it together. I told my staff, hey, prepare for a long day. I went to the board member and said, like, today the board is happening in the field. And I called my wife, say, hey, today I'm not coming home. And this is the moment I really cried and I realized how fragile I am. And I thought, like, all the things we've been working to do is falling apart. Everything is going, like all the efforts we've put in. Getting to the field after 3 hours, that's the image, this image, it's what we found. But getting there after 3 hours, I was still like sad, crying, and really mad. But when we got there, things were under control. We found communities have come together to solve this. So what happened? The kids, same kids that we have educated in our conservation campaign, in the morning when they were out playing, they saw 2 people coming in a marsh and they were doing something unusual. So kids stuck around. And when the cranes came around 10, near the 10, they start feeding and they saw cranes flying and then falling. And they saw this man trying to take cranes in the bag, like trying to pack them. And they screamed. They called for help. The parents came. They called our conservation champion. And they called the police. Everyone came together to sort it. You see, it took us 3 hours to get there. And if these people were not there, it could have been worse. This is a place where we have more than 100 cranes, a lot of water birds. But when we go to the field, there was only 12 dead. And so throughout that whole dark moments, the moments when I was feeling so angry, I saw the light. I saw something positive. I saw the kids who took initiative to call. I saw the community who have stopped this from happening. And these same kids, you know what they did? Without instructing them, without telling them what to do, they went and they stood in the same area where the poison was. And they were chasing all the cranes, every single bird, to make sure they do not eat from the poison. To me, these are the heroes. The heroes are these kids who stayed around and they helped us to collect poison from 180 sites. The heroes are the women who found one crane that was not yet dead, and they wrapped it in their precious blanket, and they gave it milk with the hope the milk will reduce the effect of the poison. And this crane, when it arrived, we did more treatment, we were able to save it. So these are the heroes. So throughout all of this, as I was saying, we saw something positive. Our work we put conservation in the hands of community is paying off. And we are more than committed to inspiring young people, to really forging a generation of future conservationists. We want to put conservation in the hands of community. You know, I was born in the community. I live in my country. It's a very small country, but I can't live everywhere. As a veterinarian, a conservationist, I love to be in those places, but I cannot be everywhere. The only way to succeed is to have these people around. And our organization is so committed to making this happen. We have a few examples. These men that you see on their little worn-out boats, they used to survive of hunting for food, not for selling. Hunting water birds like cranes, ducks, and sitatunga. But now, working together, they have become the protectors of the same marsh, and they are successful farmers. They are making an income. The women who made a living from collecting grass from the crane breeding site, they are now united in a sewing cooperatives. So we have so many initiatives, conservation agreements, growing trees, indigenous trees for species, creating a lot of jobs, really empowering communities to take action and take the pride in conservation and take action to save wildlife. And all of this is really paying off. Regardless of events like this poisoning, the great crown cranes population is increasing. You know, I love this time of the Expo because it always happens after we conduct the census, the count of great crown cranes in Rwanda. And this year, 2022, we've counted again, and we've counted 1,066. From 400 when we started counting to 1,000, we've more than doubled the population of great crown cranes. And thank you all for your support. But when we do such count, we also collect a lot of information. We are able to look in region by region. And some of the region, like the first one, you see there is a constant increase. And some of the other region, there is a fluctuation. And this is when we go back to those sites. We try to see what's happening here. Changes in habitat. Shall we adapt our strategy? So we collect a lot of information that really enable us to think again and bring strategies that work to save these species. Again, when we fly out, we see a lot of changes. We still have a lot of threats to habitat. So many marshland are transformed for agriculture. Marshland are used for livestock. And if we don't do anything, the same place will be full of livestock. So we understand that the future, the survival of these species, these beautiful birds, really relies on successful working with communities. So when you help us to save the great crown cranes, you are not only saving the great crown cranes, you are helping us to save the other species that share the same habitat, the sitatunga, the unique antelope that you don't see all the time, very shy, the shoebill stork. These birds, we've been flying over the country. We've only seen 2 individuals remaining in a country. And we really want to use the same approach to protect their habitat and probably recover their number with other conservation measures. So today, I would really like to thank you so much for what you do to help us. Our team, we love to fly. We love to fly. I used to think I was the one who flies the highest, but there are some guys who are like, no. So please join us in this flight. We need all of you. Conservation is not for me only, it's for all of us. And if we can join our hands together, we can achieve anything. Thank you so much.
So in an Expo first, we're running way ahead of schedule. But this is good because, as I said, the whole point of Expo really is about connections. So we're going to have longer time to actually ask Olivier questions.
Yes, it's what I wanted. Yes.
Why were people poisoning the cranes?
Yeah, so this case, when we go to the field, we wanted to understand. This was a man who actually sell meat from wildlife. So he unfortunately was selling poisoned meat. So it was for meat, trying to sell the meat. So what he was doing, he tries to get them quickly. And when they caught him, what he was telling that he tries immediately to open them and take the inside out, thinking the inside is the one that has poison, and then he sell the rest of the meat. So, yeah, people are desperate. Sometimes they find ways around to try and make a living. And, you know, this is when we think again, like sometimes we we criminalize people, but we try to understand why the people want to do what they do and trying to find a solution together. Yes.
I've been to Africa 13 times, and one of the things I've wondered is, are any of the countries doing anything for their people to make sure that they don't have to do things like this to get food or to get money or whatever, just to make them more prosperous or have jobs, have education, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Rwanda is one of the good example. We have a small country with like a high population density. Of course, it's difficult to provide for everyone, but there is a lot of politics around, especially when it comes to conservation. Like Rwanda promotes a lot of tourism, and when they make an income, 10% goes to the same community that live nearby protected areas. So that's the money that goes into cooperatives, the money that goes into other infrastructure like schools, health centers, really to make sure people can understand the value or the uniqueness of living close to those habitats. And there is also a lot of creation of jobs, people working in national parks or in other jobs nearby the reserve. So yeah, there is a lot of initiative to really try connect people to conservation in creating other alternative ways of living.
Hi there. Craig from Wilderness. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more about potential aviatourism in Rwanda, maybe in Akagera National Park.
Oh, yeah. Rwanda actually itself, let me say Rwanda. You gave me a chance. Rwanda is so unique. I always say it's in the heart of Africa. So we are in the corner there in East Africa, and it's unique habitat, a lot of mountains, and we call it ourselves a country of 1,000 hills. And when you drive through Rwanda, all you see is this beautiful landscape, and from rainforest habitat with a lot of endemic birds that you cannot see in other places. You go to the east of the country that is full of more than 700 species of birds. So really, Rwanda has been actually working on this aviatourism industry, where we also have now the aviatourism strategy, and again making a marketing out of it, trying to inspire and bring people to come to Rwanda. I feel in Rwanda you are able to see a huge diversity because we have all those habitats combined together in a very small country. So yeah, if you love birds, come to Rwanda. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough with my two best friends here. We were actually just in Rwanda a couple months ago. Beautiful country. One thing I noticed was that everybody has a little plot of land that they're farming, right? So the actual park system seems to be pretty small, right? And then everything else is farmed. Are there any efforts to try to expand how much is actually protected under a wildlife park and maybe create some more communal farms versus having everybody have their own farm?
Absolutely. I think, Rwanda has committed to restoring landscape restoration. So it's not only national park. Of course, there is a pressure everywhere, but in so many places, we are trying now to protect so many wetlands and restoring some of the habitats. Boalia talked about our program on habitat restoration. Our work, our organization put a lot of efforts in restoring those native forest for wildlife and for people. So we have a program where we work with communities from the seeds. We know women care for the seeds in our country. They care for them. So they harvest, and we teach them how to harvest, to really dry them and label them, and we buy from them. They make a living, and then we bring them in our nursery and we grow them into saplings, and then we go back to the communities. We identify land either with the government that needs restoring, or we work with communities. We sign conservation agreements. We have this program that is called $1 per tree per year, and these are community members that accept to put their land together and restore it for wildlife. So what we do, we give them those indigenous trees, and we help them to grow those trees, to plant them, and they care for them. And each year, we are working with donors all throughout the world to grow those trees together. So if you want to plant, like to grow 100 trees, you pay $100 each year, and they're a member of the community. They receive their money and they are growing those trees. So together you could grow trees, and at the same time you are contributing to someone's livelihood. So we are trying to create like these strategic solutions in a way that that benefits the environment and benefits people. We also work with philanthropists, people who have land. We have like some huge forests that we have now restored from donations, people giving us land to restore it for wildlife and for people. So we are trying to connect those national parks by creating the micro habitat, like kind of refuge for wildlife, for birds, for bats, for other species really to use. So, and that's from our side, but also there are many other organizations and the government that are working to make that happen throughout the country. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned that that Rwanda is very populous, high population. I was wondering, on average, how many children per family, and if there's any interest or acceptance of family planning practices there.
Yeah. The density, like the average was in between 400 and 500 per square kilometer. So those are so many people, and in some of the areas we have high population density, about 800 people per square kilometer. So, and again, that means that and the Rwandan population, like I think, and like about 60%, they are under 30 years of age. Like we are a very young population. There are so many. I don't remember the average per family, but there are so many kids per family. So there is a lot of programs going on to really try to encourage people to use family planning. There is from the health, like there is at the community level, the village, there is someone, what do you call them? Like community health, community health assistant, and they are trained to really help people to understand the best way they can do. But also Rwanda, we know that education is the key. If we can educate Rwandans, this will be one way that we can really get people to understand that education really contributes a lot in family planning. When people are not educated, when they are caught in their life in a village and they get married early, they end up having so many kids. But when people follow education, it really helps them really to open eyes, but also make informed decision, like how many kids you can have, like all of that. So there is a lot of effort that is put to providing education for everyone in the country so that we can raise all together. Yeah. Yes?
How is the population of the beautiful cranes in other parts of Africa?
It's a good question. The great crown crane population has been declining in their country in all the range. So in East Africa, it's all declining. We've lost about 80% of the whole population, and that's because of illegal trade. There is an international trade and the national trade. So there is a huge market in the Middle East, in China, where cranes are taken. In fact, recently there was a confiscation in the DRC where so many cranes were at the airport ready to go. And habitat loss, those are the main threat. So, but we understand, actually, when we do this kind of census, we've been also using GPS tags to follow some of the cranes. So, and Rwanda is, in the north, we have Uganda, East Tanzania, South Burundi, and most of the crane population actually is distributed across the border. And we realize many of those cranes, they are moving. They don't know the borders. And yeah. They just fly. They go and come back. And, and, and again, we understand now if we want to save them, we've got to cross the borders. Like, we've got to push the boundaries. So this year, we started an initiative working with organizations in Uganda and Tanzania, and hopefully soon Burundi, to try and really come together, make a strategic plan of how we can protect the great crown cranes in this huge transboundary landscape. So we have identified like an area where we think cranes are moving in between the borders, and we have teams like my colleague Deo was recently in Tanzania working with them, and we are starting an initiative, same approach, community conservation champions, and really putting communities at the forefront and recruiting some other teams with the team that is there to try and work together, share the information. We have like now like a database where like we give smartphone to these members of the communities, we train them, and they're able to send us information of sightings, anything that happens, and the information comes to us right away. So we are so excited, actually, looking forward to working with the neighboring countries to really safeguarding the cranes in this huge landscape and other species as well. Wow, please give me some other questions. Oh, there is one there. I love chatting.
Hello, Mr.
Yeah.
Chatty. How are you?
I'm very good.
Can you do you do any captive breeding programs to replenish the population?
No, actually, it's something we thought of. One thing I did not mention, like in the beginning of this presentation, I told you about removing all the cranes from captivity and taking them back to the wild. That's a presentation itself. Like, it's been like doing like all the veterinary work. I'm a veterinarian. I'm a veterinarian, but I'm doing everything now. So we've been doing all the health checks and making sure like we cranes that are able to go back to the wild, they are taken back to the wild. But throughout the whole process, we came across a big number of cranes that are disabled. You know, some people, to keep cranes in captivity, they would cut feathers to stop them from flying. But these ones, actually, they can grow new feathers. These feathers that are half, they can fall out and grow. But there were other cranes that had broken wings, either on purpose or by accident. Some people had these cranes like with half wing, like really. Anyway, we saw the wars. So, and we had a big number of cranes we could not take back to the wild. So we approached the government, and they gave us use to 25 hectares of land. And this is the sanctuary in the capital city. And actually, this is where we are based, in the capital city in Kigali. So we've created this place as a natural place where cranes can range free. Those ones that are disabled, it's fenced to stop predators from coming and attacking them. But the place is open for so many other birds. We have more than 100 species of birds on the reserve. Beautiful walkways. Like it's a very nice, actually, place to start your visit when you come to Rwanda. And so when we had all of those cranes, we thought, like, should we do captive breeding? But actually, we thought, like, let's focus on actually securing the population we have and make sure they can actually breed and breed. But you know what happened? We had, like, so many cranes from other wetlands coming and joining our flock at our sanctuary. So, and, you know, some of them have been falling in love. So we have some good stories. Like this year, there was a crane 293. Everyone has a name. That's the number. Like they fell in love with one of the free range, the boy that fell in love with her. And they really made a nest and managed to hatch 3 chicks. So we've been having those kind of chicks that are born from our facility in a natural way. And when they're born, we tag them and we try to see where they go. We let them go free. They release themselves. So, you know, I used to tell my friends, like, when we start this work, I used to dream, like, there is a time I dreamt, like, seeing a big flock of cranes flying over the capital city. And this, when we started, it was not happening. But these days, it's becoming normal to see that. And my dream has come true. Like sometimes I really, when I see them, I close my eyes and I fly with them. Like, I love flying. I love flying. I always tell people that when I was young, we used to see those cranes like flying, and I never knew any other superhero. This was my superhero. And when they were in the sky, like I thought, like we made fake feathers with my colleagues, and we went in a tree and they tried to fly. Like, and we fell down, we try again, fell down and try again. But actually, I thought I would never be able to fly, but I found my way to fly. When I see them flying, when I release a crane like in that kind of video that you saw, I close my eyes and I fly with them. Yeah.
I have one more question over here.
Yeah, we have, yeah, okay.
Just one more. So,
and then that one.
Okay.
yeah, and maybe this is for GJ.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, GJ.
It's okay. My in-laws don't get it either.
How does WCN identify you as a conservation project to support? Since we know there are many organizations out there, what's the process for that?
So we have a team that is always looking out for. We have a team that is always looking out for conservationists. We're looking for conservationists who are doing effective species-based conservation. But all the work that the conservationists do is very holistic. So it's an emphasis on having a holistic approach, a people approach to conservation. We used to have an open application process, but we don't anymore. So right now it goes a lot by word of mouth. We get approached. We do a lot of checking. So we work through our network and our peers. We then visit them. We quote unquote date conservationists for a really long time. Some of you might remember having met Olivier several years ago, and now he's standing here as a partner. So that's right.
Yes.
And we really try to do the due diligence so that you can invest in them with confidence, making sure that they're serious organizations, that they're having the impact that we want them to have, that they share our values. Some of the values I listed, and a big value there is partnership, collaboration, is learning, being able to grow, and we try to keep that checklist. And then sadly, there are more organizations than we can actually bring onto the network. But that's a gist of a process. We'll take a question from Juan, then I have a question for Olivier, and then we'll actually end early, and I'll share a few announcements before we do that.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you, Olivia, for your beautiful talk, very poetic. Your passion is very evident. I love it, I love it.
Thank you.
I just have a very simple question, which is, you mentioned that the trade in the cranes, and what drives the trade? What is it that people are looking for?
Good question, yeah. So you see, when actually when I started this work, I was a gorilla doctor, and I left to start the work to save the cranes because I wanted really to make a difference for them. And when I went there, I thought like I would maybe work with the government, grab those cranes that are in captivity, do the vet work, reintroduce them. But I realized this concept would not work. So I visited so many houses with my colleagues, and we went and we tried to understand, why do we even have cranes in captivity? We wanted to understand so that we can make informed decisions. And what we found out is that actually people love cranes. You know, people love them so much that they want to have them in their gardens. And it's too much love that creates a threat. It happens. So cranes are a symbol of wealth and longevity in Rwanda. They are also a totem for some of our traditional family. So many people wanted to have them close. And we realized actually, you know, in conservation, sometimes like we criminalize people, say you are bad, you are doing bad, and we are good, and we are come here to tell you something bad you are doing, and we want to correct it. We actually found another approach. We say, we have love for cranes, they have love for cranes. Let's use it as something really that can help us to solve this issue. So we went on radios and television, and we told people, hey, the cranes that we love are in danger, and actually we can do something. You see, I love them, but I don't have them in my gardens. And if you want to see them in the wild in the next 20 years, please, let's do something different. And so many people called us. And, you know, in the beginning, I was thinking, how can such like less powerless people do something about it? You know, some influential people having them. How do you convince people? But we found something like love. People call, say like, do you love them? Yes. You would like your grandkids to see them in the future? Yes. So, but unfortunately, if you keep them in your garden, it's not going to happen. We asked them, did they ever breed? How many years have you had them? Say they never bred. So they are not breeding while they are in captivity. So we put our number on national television and radios. This was another way to create the trust. Say like, if you have cranes and you want to give them back to us, please call us. So many people called us, say, please come and take them. We didn't know it was bad. And even actually people who didn't have them, they would call, say, my neighbor has a crane. So really, it was so nice to see everyone coming together to solve this issue. And this is what helped us to remove all the cranes from captivity. Any single crane that we are aware of, we've taken it. And that's because of the collaboration. So anyway, there are a lot of factors. So that kind of trade, love and demand, created an opportunity for people in the community. So there were some dealers in the city who go to the community and they say, if you catch me a crane, I'll give you $5. And then in return, they come to the city, they sell them for $100, $50. We saw cranes of $500. So they were making a lot of money. It was a kind of business. But the local communities, driven by lack of awareness, poverty sometimes, they would do it without thinking. They think, after all, it's just a crane. Oh yeah, I will catch it. And so that's how the trade has been happening. And we've been really trying to understand, then working at all levels of the trade to make sure this does not happen again.
So
the export. So the export, we've been working with International Crane Foundation, trying to understand the demand in the Middle East. But also what we've realized, there are some of the traffickers who operate in Tanzania and in DRC. The Tanzania, because there is a port, and DRC at the airport, and many cranes have been going through that kind of channel. And all of our countries, they're it's like one landscape. So it's easy even to cross the border, cranes from one country to go to another country. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap here. I want to thank Olivier. I was going to ask him to tell us about how he got started, because that's a question that often really illustrates the passion that these conservationists have. I think it's totally unnecessary. I think you got the sense of a passion from Olivier. I do also want to point out Deo. Deo, if you can stand. Deo is one of Olivier's colleagues, so that... I hope many of you want to catch up with Olivier. We'd like to clone him. We can't, so you could ask questions to Deo as well, and then together they can try to handle it all. I want to share a few more announcements. We're gonna. This is the whole thing about getting back into events after 3 years of not doing them. So yeah, we probably should not have put round tables. We're going to flip the room, and we're going to do theater style throughout the whole thing and create more seating. So this a bit of extra time in the break is going to be good. So as soon as this is over, we're going to ask you to leave a room, carry the conversations, take use of a full building. I've got my notes here so I don't forget what's happening everywhere. There are, of course, elevators to get you to every floor. There are bathrooms on every floor as well, so don't get stuck on the first floor bathroom with a 20-minute line. There's the Rembe Auditorium is this one, and the Toby Auditorium is the one on the second floor. The third floor is called the boardroom. We have additional seating there, and you can view actually the Toby presentations via TV screen out there, so you could sit and view it there. All the talks are also recorded. I mentioned this at first, but you don't need to have fear of missing out. You can catch these talks later, and you'll get through. So that's pretty much it. I want to thank again Olivier, Deo, and your teams. I want to thank all of you, and I invite you to go and connect with the conservationists and with each other. We'll flip the room, and we'll see you at 11:30.
Yeah.
Back here and upstairs. Thank you.
The One Health panel.